Hello and welcome back to Prisonyland Fish School of Listeners. I'm Sarah.
I'm Paul, and today's episode is called Riots, Drills, and the Devil, Part 1.
And fun fact about that, I was actually going through my old scripts because I save everything like a hoarder, and I have some of the white pages and a few of the blue pages collated into my shooting draft.
Okay. No one knows what that means, that
Okay.
There's different colored pages.
I feel like we went over this earlier.
Okay, but maybe somebody's just tuning into this episode and that's,
Okay, we'll back up. So the salmon pages is the final shooting draft, and I collated a bunch of stuff in there. That's 7 revisions. It goes white, blue, pink, canary, green, goldenrod, and salmon, which for a big episode like this,
that's a lot.
Does make some sense. But what I noticed actually in the white pages was that the original title of this episode was, Paul?
Riots, Drills, and Jesus.
As opposed to the devil.
And that probably just got bonked, right?
I mean, one imagines that somebody at Fox Network was like, if we're going to have...
That Mr. Murdoch said no.
Mr. Murdoch's like, I have one opinion about this entire season,
and it's
that I don't want you to use Jesus.
I don't want that.
We don't know where it came from. That's just an educated guess or an uneducated guess.
What else did you see when you looked through that script?
So there was another little change. There's a Sarah and Michael scene that starts hottest April on record. We talked about this a little bit earlier. That's partly because we shot the pilot in November, December. In Chicago, it was very cold. And these episodes, like the salmon pages, came out on August 12th. So we were shooting these episodes in the heat of a Chicago summer.
Yeah.
So we have a hottest April on record to account for everybody being in T-shirts. And originally, his response was, parenthetically, genuinely happy to see her. Sarah, how are you? By the time we got to the salmon revisions, his response to hottest April on record was a dry global warming. And I would be willing to bet that that's in response to a Wentworth note, because we were always trying to slow down the flirting, the kissing, the romance. There was a draft early on in the first 8 episodes that had us like smooching in the infirmary very early on. We were both like, nah, I don't think
Too
so.
soon.
Too soon.
Yeah, you got to stretch it out.
You got to stretch it out.
We have a very exciting episode because we have a wonderful guest that will be joining us after the Callistein Index and after our rewatch, named Michael Cudlitz. Sarah, give us a little Michael Cudlitz intro for our fans.
Okay, so Michael and I have actually been on 2 of the same shows together, Prison Break and Walking Dead. We have never actually been in a scene together. Have you ever worked with him? Have you guys been in the same show?
I don't think we've ever met until we just said hello on Zoom.
Oh, well, consider yourself lucky. He's a ton of fun. We've spent the most amount of time together doing conventions around the U.S. and I believe in Paris. And Cudlitz is a great hang. I will get to his extensive filmography
when we
get around to introducing him.
All right. Then should we jump in with the Callistein Index?
Please. We'd be crazy not to.
Okay. The Callistein Index for Riot, Drills, and the Devil, Part 1. This episode originally aired on September 26, 2005, written by Nick Santora, another one of the writers who would continue with the show through season 4. Robert Mandel directed it, and the synopsis, this one from Wikipedia, Michael's idea to get more drilling time by provoking a lockdown backfires horribly. It's kind of Sucre's idea, but we can do that during the
that's
during
a very
the rewatch.
Good point.
The show drew 8.55 million viewers, up from last week, again opposite Monday Night Football on ABC, and a new episode of 2.5 Men, which must have been a relatively new show then, and Las Vegas on NBC.
In global news on this day in 2005, 100,000 people attended an anti-Iraq war rally in D.C. In that same week, the UN warned that an avian flu outbreak could cause 5 to 150 million lives. In slightly less terrifying news that did in fact come true, rumors began this week that Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt had begun an off-screen romance after they worked together in Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
And if you watch that movie, which I love that movie, by the way.
It's a
I find
great
it
movie.
so charming. You're just like, those people are fucking. You're just like, God. And both, they're so beautiful. And I feel bad for whatever cirrus it caused in their real lives. But my God, do they have chemistry. Also in pop culture, in theaters this week were Corpse Bride, directed by Tim Burton, A History of Violence by David Cronenberg, Flight Plan, starring Jodie Foster, which kind of had Prison Break vibes in a way. You're in a thing, you have the plans, you have to crawl through the guts of the thing. On the TV side, Desperate Housewives, The Office were becoming giant hits. And on the music end of things, around this time, Death Cab for Cutie dropped the album Plans, and the number one song in the Billboard charts in America was Gold Digger by Rabbi Kanye West featuring Jamie Foxx. And that is the Callistein Index. So please join us now as we rewatch Riot, Drills, and the Devil, Part 1. You ready to watch it, Sarah?
I am. So this is one of the things that happens as an actor is you discover your backstory as you read.
Yes, correct.
I wonder when Knepper read that, he's like,
Oh.
copy that. By and large, when someone says there's nothing to worry about on Prison Break,
Yep.
one should start to worry
Correct.
immediately. It's a drill. We have riots, check. Drills, check. And the devil,
Oh,
check.
drills. I always thought of it as drills, like running a drill.
Oh, no, I think they're
Oof.
drilling. Oh, shoot.
Oh, is that their cell?
This is their cell.
Oh, this is how Bagwell gets involved in the whole thing. That's
This
so
is how
great.
Bagwell gets involved.
Well.
Oh, my gosh, that was to be continued.
Wow.
That's all we get.
How's she gonna get out of this one?
Oh.
Very upsetting.
We will be right back to talk about the episode.
Okay, welcome back. Lots to talk about there. Wow.
Yes.
And let's talk about it. Let's bring in our special guest, Sarah.
For those of you who don't know, Michael Cudlitz played C.O. Bob on Prison Break, an ill-fated, short-lived, very pivotal role with an insane amount of sexual violence. We'll talk about that in a moment. Before that, he was in Band of Brothers.
Yeah.
Brilliantly. 24, Beverly Hills 90210, among other shows. After his itty-bitty little stint with us, he went to, which is like, talk about catastrophically underusing an actor, but he went on to play Officer Cooper in this critical hit, Southland, and then Abraham in The Walking Dead. He also directed a few episodes of that show. After that, he starred in a show that I'm so mad was canceled. I loved The Kids Are All Right. I fucking love that show. And he can currently be seen playing Lex Luthor on Superman and Lois. He's also the
Juicy.
father of twins, which I feel like deserves an award in and of itself. Michael Cudlitz, welcome.
Hey guys, nice to see you.
Thank you so much.
We have a funny connection. I realized reading your very impressive biography. I was in a theater. I got my start acting in a theater company called New Crime in Chicago that was founded by John Cusack, but that also was kind of co-run by Steve Pink. And you played Bob Stefano in Grosse Point Blank, right?
Point blank, yeah. Had a great time with those guys.
Yeah, that was basically that entire crew of people. I mean, 2 New Crime guys wrote it, and John was a star. And
Funny story about that too is Jenna Elfman and myself were the only 2 people in the main cast that were not part of their core group.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And we were cast. I think there was a movie that was not done filming, and there was someone who was supposed to play my role, and they brought me in last minute, and they were very upfront about it. They were like, John's buddy was going to be doing this, but he can't, so we're recasting. And when we got on set, myself and Jenna, we met, and same situation for her. So we were brought in.
Always fun. Always fun to know that.
No, I actually appreciate it. And for me, it was sort of like, because you're not like the other choice. You're not like, you were never in consideration. Somebody fell out and you're brought in. I'm more than fine with that. But we didn't know any of those guys at all and had a great time.
Oh, yeah. It's such a good movie, Grosse Point Blank. Everyone should check that movie out. Sarah, bring us to Prison Break.
Well, we'll start at the beginning. A couple of the other folks that we have interviewed or had on as guests including Paul, who's not a guest. Skip this. Anyway, auditioned for multiple roles before ending up playing the one that they played. Is C.O. Bob the one role you auditioned for on the show, or did you read for anybody else?
My story with that is a little bit different. I knew I was good friends with Mike Pavone back in the beginning of it. Even further back than that, I was actually shooting a movie in Prague called Running Scared. And I don't know if you guys probably covered this early on, but the original script was a 6-episode limited series.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
I read them when I was in Prague, and my buddy Johnny Messner was sent the script just to see what he thought, interest or gauge interest or whatever. This is way before they did it. Fox loved it so much, they were like, we don't want to do just 6 and end it. We want to expand this. So that's what
this is news to us.
So I think that season 1 was really based on those first 6, which was the entire show, and that is why I think they went somewhere else on the next season, because it was just the idea had played out. It really played out in 6 and was incredibly dense. It was incredible. Not that the show isn't, but just the 6 were so dense, so
that intensity.
Yeah, and it was fantastic. At that time, I had nothing to do with it. When it did come to getting produced, they were looking at me for the forget his name, the main Wade. They were looking at me.
Bellick.
Yeah, I can see that
early on, and I was not available. This is before it was Mike just wanted to know if I wanted to do it. And I knew Michael Watkins as well, who I didn't see till I got there. And Michael I love Michael. Really, really creative, wonderful director. Very, very in the moment and very spontaneous, and really had been doing it and has been doing it so long as a director, is not afraid of anything or anyone.
Yep.
So
possibly born not afraid of anyone.
Yes,
Mike Watkins.
or the army taught him that. Or
yes, exactly.
Yeah. No, he's not army.
Did he ever not show you?
No, he's a Marine.
Oh, sorry, Marine.
This is a strange question. Was there ever a chicken on set?
I don't know.
I mean, I was not
that I remember. Why?
The first
Hold
season.
on. Why? I'll bite. Why?
He does this thing where he shows you how you can literally, like, you take a chicken and you do something with it and you put it on the ground and you draw a line on the dirt, and the chicken will literally just like
freeze,
and freeze at the line. It's the most amazing thing.
You can hypnotize a chicken. Jesus, I wish we could get him on with a chicken.
Yeah. We're gonna have to do a live video episode with Mike and a chicken.
So when you came in, was Riot Drills your first?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's basically the arc of C.O. Bob, right? Because it's going south.
Yeah. Yes.
And did you come to Chicago and stay for the duration? Yeah. It was like a two episode gig.
Yep. I came in and they were like, hey, we're doing this thing. We want to bring you out. It's 2 episodes, in and out. It's like, great. Didn't really know what it was till I got there. But I trusted everyone involved. And at that point, I was doing a lot of guest spots in my career and having a great time sort of traveling around. And I had a really great time on the show, actually. I was treated really well. Everybody was very welcoming. That's where I met Dominic. I'm still, loosely in touch with Dominic.
Nice.
Who at the time was even more intense.
Yeah.
If that's possible.
He started at peak intensity.
He
has not burned much jet fuel off. He's still going.
He's an intense dude, and honestly, I get along great with him. And he's remembered me through my career, and like Sarah was saying, I was really in and out, especially for him. I think I only did 2 scenes with him, and he remembered me, and had the next time I saw him was like 3-4 years later. And
sweet.
you did the cop, the young guy,"
Yeah.
and it was like, "Yeah." And then so he's been great through my career, and it's been nice sort of seeing him at conventions as well, and seeing what he's up to in his life, and we're all just
So
moving through it.
wait, I want to back up for a second because you just mentioned somebody. Arguably my first friend in the business was Johnny Messner.
Really?
We did Tarzan together.
Oh my gosh.
And this was when Johnny was like, he had just done Anacondas. He was
Mhm.
in the Bruce
Sure.
posse, and
Yep.
like his life was Bruce and Cole and all these guys. And he was the person who kind of like a little bit took me by the hand and was like, here are some of the ropes of Hollywood. Not a ton, but I'd never been to LA. And he was this like really lovely big brother.
Yep. Really,
Um,
another really intense dude, but really just a huge, huge heart. Just
yeah.
a really sweet guy.
Well, and then years later, I did this like celebrity fashion show with Catherine Morris. And she was like, "You're a friend of Johnny Messner's, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "I like just started dating him. Is he a good guy or should I run the other direction?"
Yes.
And I was like, yes and yes. Totally. I was like, yes and yes.
And are they married with children now? Is this?
They're married with twins.
Oh, lovely.
And it's so beautiful. I mean, Johnny and I lost touch because I left LA and I'm never there. But like, I have so much gratitude in my heart for the kindness that he showed me as somebody who was brand new, did not know a goddamn thing.
He's
So I love that you guys were in Prague together
Yeah,
when you
and
were
we
like
got-
first exposed to this. Because they must have wanted him for Link.
I don't even know. I don't even know. He's like, you got to check the script out. I read it. It's one of the best things I've ever read. I'm going to give it to you. I was in my trailer reading it in between. I think we were like trading like what stuff to read, and I think I recommended Game of Thrones to him at the time because I was like on book 2 or 3.
Wow.
And, just trading stuff back and forth, and he was like, "Yeah, there's a ton of stuff in here. A lot of guards and inmates, and this is
Yeah.
check it out."
You had a lot of physical stuff in this Prison Break episode?
Sorry. We're like down memory lane. Paul's like, bring it back.
No, that's our job. I
got a great Knepper story about that. The dragon.
Yeah, I was going to say. So you'd already had a career at that point. You'd done a lot of stuff. You'd done Band of Brothers. You'd done physical. You'd done fights. You'd done blood. You've done all that stuff. How did Prison Break? Sometimes it's different on TV. I mean, Band of Brothers was TV, but it had probably a film pace. Sometimes it's different on TV because it's rushed and it can get hairy. Did you feel, was it cool? Was it everything okay?
Everything was great. I dig the pace of TV personally.
I do too.
I think it just makes all the bullshit fall away. Like if you're not in the moment and in the truth by take 3.
Moving on.
If you get 3, you know. I mean, there's no,
especially as a guest star.
Yes,
especially as a guest
star. And it's like you gotta honestly, the guest stars are sort of the unsung heroes of the television universe because you don't get to have a bad day.
We just talked about that recently. I think that the guest star, especially a principal guest star on an hour-long drama, is maybe the hardest job on film.
Yep.
You have the heaviest lifting emotionally, the least amount of time, and it's not about you.
Always shoot last.
Yes.
Everybody else is more important, both in wardrobe, hair, to the directors, to the producers, and you just have to land it to make the main characters cry. It's like you have the story that's really about them.
You got a 2-page monologue.
So can you do the cancer monologue again? We forgot to pick up this one thing.
You'd better be in it when they got to you.
That's right. That's right.
Totally, for the 10 frames.
Yeah, but the physical stuff, we had there was the one thing I remembered was that sticks out is a really funny story with me and Knepper, and he's doing this thing where he has to drag me down that whole metal staircase and the catwalk and everything.
Yeah,
brutal.
Banded metal, and he's got to drag me around, and they're bringing the cranes coming up and following us down the catwalk because they're shooting it from all down on the ground, and we go through this whole thing where he's walking. I go, "Look, Robert, like this is all these sharp edges and everything here. It's like I am gonna get fucked up. I got me padded out. We've done it. We've walked through it. I said, don't stop. Like, I will be the one who stops if something goes wrong. If something goes wrong on your end, like, just keep playing through it. Just let's see when we get there. So we get to the end all the way down, and then I kick him, and then he does this thing where he punches me. So we go through the first take, and he's drugged me, and I'm thinking, oh shit. My internal monologue is like, I'm just getting my ass beat on these metal stairs. And we get all the way down to the thing, and it's all in one shot, and he comes down, and boom, and he punches me right, literally hits me right in the forehead. And it boom, and he goes, oh shit, I'm so sorry. And I go, dude.
What did I say?
No, we got to fucking do it again.
Yeah, that's right.
I go,
right.
Like, yeah, you punched me, and I get it. You're sorry. Of course you didn't mean to, but
right.
No, we got to do it again.
Oh my God.
Wow. I mean, your head must have been against those metal stairs, right? Like, that'll ring your bell.
I think I kicked him, and I looked up, and I went to get up, and he hits me, and I go down. So it wasn't like boom, boom.
Okay.
But it was the flat of his knuckles right in the center of my forehead.
And now we got to do it again.
Yeah, and again, could not, like that stuff happens all the time by accident. You plan for and then something happens, and he was incredibly. He felt like shit about it. Like, so.
No. I mean, a lot of people got tagged. I think Dom got him once.
Yeah. No, and it did, and I think I get thrown. I think Dom throws me out. Like, everybody was.
Yeah, you got. We just watched the first. We just watched the first one, and you get popped pretty good.
Yeah,
you're pretty ragdolled.
Yeah, it was great though. I mean, honestly, it's like it was fun. I rewatched it as well, and it was. It's a very intense couple episodes.
It is. I mean, we were just talking about this because we just did the rewatch together, and it's kind of, especially the first one, both of them. They're episodes about sexual violence. Yep. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, it's Cherry's character, it's you, it's my character. I mean, it's really interesting that, we talked earlier, the second episode of the season, there's a race riot, and they just dig right into, this is the visceral, palpable terror of being in a prison. And
background artists were fantastic, like, and just from a performance standpoint, it's like you're watching, and it's like holy crap.
Yeah, everyone's going for it for sure.
100%.
Sarah, when you were shooting this stuff in the infirmary, when they're coming for you, how did you feel shooting it? Did you feel, with all the physical stuff, did you feel safe? Did you feel, as an actor, did you feel safe?
I mean, what was lovely about it, and I think what happens on the best sets, is that as soon as, any time that's not between action and cut, those actors were doing everything to make sure that they were like, I'm not a threat, you're safe. I mean, they were really lovely. And what's interesting is these guys, none of them were series regulars.
Right.
These are guys jobbed in who show up, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm playing pop.
And I'm coming for you, and I'm going to start scaring the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Completely. It was interesting. In some ways, the weirdest part of it all, I didn't find out until much later. And the caveat to this is, like you, Cudlitz, I love Watkins. I think he's fantastic at what he does. But the place where, in a weird way, gender, I think, ended up playing a role was, like I said, we shot that stuff really late at night. They were long days. We were on a couple of forced calls. And I remember, in the wee hours of the morning at one point, we were waiting while they set up a shot, and Watkins turned to me. He's like, how you doing? I was like, I'm tired. And as far as I remember, that was the only part of that conversation. That was the whole conversation. And I found out seasons later that he'd said to the producers, to the writers, you can't write her big episodes because she gets too tired and she can't take the hours. And one of the writers later was like, it took us a while to figure out that wasn't true and to start writing you up again. And I was like, oh, interesting. And it may have been a very off the cuff thing that he said. I never got sort of his side of it, but that in some ways was the biggest expression of the gender differentials going on. And I haven't sort of dug into the forensics, but if I remember right, after these 2 riot episodes, like, there wasn't a whole lot going on. And it was just a sort of interesting. It's tricky because as a woman in those situations, part of me wants to be like, "Just leave me alone and treat me like you'd treat anybody else." And part of me wants to be like, "No, actually, some of this is actually gnarly and can bring up like 1 out of 4 of us, I'm a survivor of sexual assault, and so there's moments where those kind of threats can get kinda like, I you know
You're not one of the attacker. You're also the victim in the scene. I mean, it's
Right.
not a. There's obviously the gender difference, but there's just also the power dynamic, as it would be for Cherry or for
Totally.
Cudlitz. Given the person that's being
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
terrorized needs to be protected on set.
Yeah, it was a trip. But I was those actors were amazing. They were like as soon as they were, like, cut, Kwame was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I
Mhm,
was like, "I'm totally fine, thank you. You're a big dude, you didn't hurt me. All is well."
mhm, mhm.
which is always hard coming in as a guest. Like you're especially in that situation. Your job is to terrorize, beat up, whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
The the most important uh, packages, product, whatever you want to
Yep.
call it, on set. That cast 1 through 6 that
Mhm.
the show needs to the cast members 1 through 6 being on the. I heard you guys earlier on the call sheet.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
the cast members, typically the 1 through 6 or 1 through 8, will be your series regulars, and they are not necessarily from a a human standpoint or more important, but from a pure business standpoint, those are needed every day. So don't break those.
Yeah, and also there is the thing, especially in a show like that. Those guest stars, most of those guys that were young, hadn't worked a lot. There is a power dynamic.
Yeah, going back to even Robert, talking about Robert, who's done it a million times, and he
Mhm.
still popped me in the head. Now you have somebody who's not doing it pretty regularly.
That's right.
The adrenaline gets going, like you,
Mhm.
and to have them be aware, it's just wonderful to hear, because usually they are. Usually everybody is aware of what they're able to do. Again, adrenaline can sometimes kick in, and you're like, all right, you need to just take it about 3/4 speed,
Well,
But
and that's the trick of acting, right? Is your job is to lose yourself in the character, but not so far that you create a dangerous circumstance for somebody else. And,
exactly.
you gotta be able to do dangerous work without being dangerous to other people. And
Yep.
that's a tough balance to find.
Yeah.
The only way to go safe, to go emotionally deep, for anyone, either the giver or receiver of the violence or whatever's happening, is to feel safe. And when you feel safe,
Exactly.
you can then go even deeper.
That's right. Okay, so here's a question for you then, Cudlitz. I mean, now that you're on the directing side as well, I imagine, this comes up in Walking Dead and stuff, right, too, is that it's a tricky situation to be in, I think, as a director when you've got an actor going, "No, no, no, make it real. Hit me, hit me, hit me." And another actor going, I'm not so sure if I wanna break my hand on your face."
Mhm.
Like, what's your approach to this kinda thing, having been
Always
on the other side of it?
Always safety first, not even a question.
Yeah.
Not even a question. So you sort of shut it down before it starts. So we'll do whatever we have to do to get you to where you need to be, but hitting you is not an option.
Yeah.
So just take that off
Mm,
the table. You're not gonna be hit. We're gonna pull it. You're gonna go work with the stunt coordinator and figure out how we need to do that. Or I'm gonna
mhm,
come off of those punches if I have to. But no,
mhm.
you're not punching anyone.
Hey, question, we were trying to figure this out as we were rewatching. Were you guys on a stage or were you in the prison?
We were in prison.
You were in the real prison for all that?
Yeah,
Wow.
all of it.
What was that like walking around? I mean, because you mentioned earlier that
Pretty crazy. It was
the
Joliet, I believe, right?
It was Joliet. That's right.
it was Joliet, and a lot of those background performers had been incarcerated there. Like, they had spent time there.
Is that right?
So how did that sort of feel that the energy of the place?
It's always, as you both know, being in the space is always better.
Yeah.
Mm,
There's a
mhm.
feel to it. There's a coldness. There's an uncomfortableness, especially in the prison. There's a there's a prison like quality to the prison. Whereas if you're on stage, chances are it would have been heated more. It would have been warm, comfy, and there would have been less sharp edges. And again, there's just, you can, and set deck and art direction is amazing. We have amazing people that we work with all the time. But whenever you can actually be in the space, and they have to work around the space, like I said, that's why they had to use the crane, because they couldn't get up there.
That's right.
You know,
oh, right.
They had to be on the other side of the railing to see the fight. And how do you do that? You know, we're 2 stories up, or story and a half, whatever it is.
The 2 times I shot there, it was like, oh, this is just not a comfortable space, period.
Exactly.
No.
And not just because, oh, it's not that stages are so comfortable. It's that, like, when you walk off that set and you go and sit in your chair, you're talking to everybody, you're still in a friggin' prison.
You're still in a friggin' prison. Doors locked from the inside.
The door's locked from the inside. It's not comfortable. And that there's no way that doesn't seep into the DNA of the thing.
I would say that carries over to really anything. You know, like when Sarah and I did Walking Dead, you know, Georgia and Atlanta were absolutely a character. You know, you don't have to sort of like say, okay, you're hot and you're miserable and it's shitty outside. Like, okay,
there's bugs.
Woo, showed up for work.
Yeah,
here we are.
Yeah,
it's like a big chunk of the work is here's an assist. It's just
huge assist. Huge assist.
it's a bunch less acting that you have to do.
Yeah.
So, okay, backing up a little bit more, slightly macro. I'm thinking, you know, the line from Band of Brothers to something like Prison Break, to something like Walking Dead, to something like Southland. There's an evolving masculinity there, right? Like, you've been a part of some pretty red-blooded shows.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how, for lack of a better word, what a sausage fest Prison Break was until I started doing other kinds of shows. And I was like, oh, there's different vibes on different shows.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, they have women in them, directing them, writing them, whatever. And in the time, you know, like, you've been doing this long enough that you've been on sets as the Me Too movement starts to shift.
Mm-hmm.
You've raised daughters. You've moved through this. Like, I'd love to hear, this isn't really a specific question as much as like, when you're starting to now, the evolution of our articulation of masculinity as storytellers and the way you embody it as a man on a set. How has that started to shift?
It's a very interesting topic based on my body of work, actually, and that's a great question. This is going to just sound very self-serving. I probably have changed least of most of the people I know. I've always been very aware of my surroundings. I've always been what I consider a very considerate human, very aware, and very much a caretaker in my life and on set. I've had situations where, like when we talk about, we go all the way back to Band of Brothers, incredible male energy on that show, just incredible, meaning the level of it, obviously. Mm-hmm. It is possibly one of the most selfless sets I've ever worked on, which is mind-blowing for me, because you have
something.
Just so many dudes who are, you know, alpha dudes working together. But the fact of the matter, we were rescued by the subject matter and by these men that we were representing. They became more important than us.
Sure.
And I think that's the key to all of this, is that if there's something outside of you that you're aware of that is more important, like other humans, I think a lot of that stuff gets neutralized. You're still obviously male, and there's men and there's women, and there's a different energy to it. But I've seen in my career on sets a tremendous amount of change between, you know, the dynamics of men to men, men to women. And it's you see it. I mean, if you were to put things next to each other, something that you shot 10 years ago and something you shot today, there's such a huge difference, and it all comes from, in my opinion, awareness. It is nowhere near a perfect situation, but it is absolutely headed in a completely different direction. I would say the right direction. But it's still there, and there's traces of it there that are big traces. It's
an interesting thing you say, Michael, because the Band of Brothers example is a great example in a positive way, in that you guys you're all young and you're all hopped up on testosterone, but you guys were playing people that needed to be honored, but also the theme of that show is obviously this moment in time where people, by that dramatization of it, were selfless, had each other's backs, were willing to do anything for the bond that they had created. And I would imagine that bled into how people wanted to be perceived and behave on set.
It did, but all male writers.
Right.
All male DPs.
Right.
All male directors. I mean, that would not be the case now, because it's just aside from them going, there may be some value.
Yeah.
Aside from that, it just wouldn't, the numbers of the availability of amazing female directors. We'd be like, oh my God, we have to have, we have to have that person. It wouldn't even be male female in a lot of the discussions. It would be like, we have to have, Michelle in, like, because she's a class director. I don't think I fully answered your question, though. I mean, it's a huge question.
It is a huge question.
And I think that, I think if you approach it and you approach your work and your life like you need to do better, you're about as ahead of the game as you can get, because you're sorting out who you are in this world, who you are, how you were raised, how you operate in the world with other people. There's so many things going on, and I think that if you're aware of it at some level and you are trying to do better, you will, generally speaking.
And I think maybe part of the seed of the question, not that you need to go back to it, but as I'm thinking through my own curiosity here, you have been in a lot of spaces that are almost exclusively male spaces. And what I've learned as a woman is that the seeds of violence towards women start in spaces where we aren't. And so if the world's going to get safer for us, it's going to get safer in those spaces and the way that men talk to each other and talk about women. And that's what I think is really interesting as I start to see changing in Hollywood, is when I'm on a set and somebody tells a joke and another guy goes, come on, man, we don't need to do that. Instead of me going, could you please not use my anatomy to articulate male weakness? Please and thank you. That makes a huge difference. And I think it's, I don't know. I see hope in some of these all male spaces, and you've walked through a bunch of them.
Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll answer some fan questions.
We have fan questions for you. You want to answer some fan questions?
Yeah, answer some fan questions. First fan question. As being primarily in a male space throughout your career...
I was like, uh-oh.
We'll just do a few of these because I know we don't have a ton of time. This one, actually, I'm curious about. I think I know the answer, but I'm curious. This is from Aisha, who's at PB Misa Lovers. Did playing Bob help your career in any way?
My career? No, but it probably paid my mortgage.
There you go.
Fair enough.
I would say, yeah. In the immediate, no. In the long term, of course, you meet people, you have relationships with people. They say, "Oh, I like that guy. I want to work with him again." Or your name comes up in a room when you're not there, which for all of us, they always do. And if somebody's making a decision about something, they say, "Oh, we're thinking about, dude kicked ass on that set. He was great." So sure. I mean, it all helps.
Okay. From at more than teabag.
Wow.
Yep. Don't overthink it. You are very well known for your work, for your role on The Walking Dead. Do you ever get recognized for CO Bob?
At conventions, people have come up and they're huge Prison Break fans, Prison Break fans, and they come to see me. So I don't know if anyone's ever walked by and went, "Hey, that was." I'm sure at the time, because the show is very popular, so I'm sure that the few weeks after it initially aired, people would recognize me for it. But it's not something that I'm approached on a daily basis.
Fair enough. I have one more. Paul, do you have anything else you want to add?
No.
Questions-wise? I don't know if you have our fan questions. This is from the Neves Company. There's a bit of a run-up to this, but I like the run-up, so I'm going for it. There is a Prison Break fan fiction episode in Spanish that I love, where the protagonist, who is the ultimate fan of the show, literally gets trapped in the story, and knowing that everything that happens, she then prevents Bob's death.
Oh my gosh.
And he helps her so that everyone can escape from Fox River. I love Bob a lot, says at the Neves Company. And in the series, we weren't even allowed to see much of him. So this is the question. How does it feel to be the most beloved guard in all of Prison Break?
How lovely.
There's just something so warm and fuzzy about that. I had to read it to you.
And Mac's going to be pissed.
Mac's going to be pissed.
Makes me feel like I deserve to live in a terrace.
In a terrace?
In a terrace. That's sorry, that's from part 2.
Oh, we've only watched part 1. Part 2 we're watching next week.
It's my license, and I live on, whatever it is, Johnson Terrace. He's like, and T-Bag's like, "Oh, you live on a terrace. It's a fancy living on a terrace."
Oh boy.
And then he talks about going and raping my daughter. So I guess it's not too fun to live.
So much sexual abuse. Very
I love it. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then tell them thank you. Well, I guess they're watching this. Thank you for saving Bob in your fan, not taking fan fictions the direction they usually go.
Last question. If you were on death row, last meal?
Probably sushi.
Oh.
Okay. If you were allowed also a cigar and a scotch, do you want to?
I would definitely have a cigar and a whiskey. Yeah.
Okay. Sushi, cigar, and a whiskey.
Cigar and a whiskey. Not in that order.
These are all the things you need to know about Michael Cudlitz.
This is all you need in your life.
Hey, man, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Michael, so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. It was nice chatting and very nice to meet you.
If anybody wants to throw more questions at us or fan art featuring CO Bob, please keep it not necessarily G-rated, but not X-rated. We are at Prison Break Podcast.
At Prison Break Podcast on Instagram. And remember, those who want to watch the watch party experience with us, feel free to subscribe, hit play, watch this episode, next episode, all episodes with Paul and Sarah. And Michael, this is how we do our sign-off. We've started asking our guests to fill in the following blank. Okay, you up for it?
Do it. Let's do it.
Okay, folks, don't go to prison, but if you do,
wear your pants.
There you go. That's it for us. Thank you, Michael.
It doesn't get better than that.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone. Prison Breaking with Sarah and Paul is a Caliber Studio production. Your hosts have been friends, but not besties, Sarah Wayne Callies and Paul Adelstein. Our prison warden has been producer Ben Haber. Our head of Jailhouse Rock is Paul Adelstein, who made the music for this podcast. Keeping us slim and trim, the prison yard, has been sound designer and editor, the great Jeff Schmidt. Keeping us up to date on the outside world is production assistant Drew Austin. Letting the world know what's been happening to us in prison is social media manager Emma Tolkien. Our prison artist, logo, and brand designer is John Nunziato and Little Big Brands. Check them out at www.littlebigBrands.com. Follow us on Instagram at Prison Break Podcast. Email us at prisonbreaking@caliber-studio.com and call us at 401-3-PBREAK. Prison Breaking with Sarah and Paul has been a Caliber Studio production. Thank you for listening.